Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 104 of the Whitey and Will Sports Show. Today is Sunday, February 25th, 2024, and we are down to two local basketball teams to talk about. A little bit surprising. I think not exactly what we expected that we were
A
going
lot surprising, Whitey.
to be down to just two area basketball teams left, but it is the Altamont girls playing in a super sectional tomorrow evening, and the topless boys who were regional champions. They're left alive in their sectional, but other than that, everybody else was defeated in the regionals last week on the boys' side of things. Uh, not the not the results that we were anticipating. We had Aaron Britton
No,
on the show last week talking about maybe having three National Trail Conference teams in the St. Anthony sectional this week for 1A. We got zero. That is an all out of the area sectional now,
he
unfortunately.
texts me Saturday morning. He says, not a good week for the NTC.
No. I was thinking about maybe we could just go ahead and tell people that Aaron Britton was going to be on the show today, even if he wasn't, just because that like triples our viewership
Oh, I
numbers.
know. It's crazy.
Uh, People have a lot of respect for what he's got to say and for good reason. But anyway, yeah, that's what we talked about last week. You know, we felt like St. Anthony and Dieterich had really strong chances, of course, as number one seeds to be playing in that sectional, and we thought that Altamont could potentially come out of its own regional, but none of them made it happen, and we'll get to that. We will talk about that, but and we'll talk about T-Town. In fact, we'll probably hit on the T-Town boys game the most. They defeated Newton in a regional championship, and we'll probably spend the most time on that, not because of any sort of favoritism or anything, but just because that's the one that you and I happen to be working the radio call of. So we uh we have the best we have the I guess the most insight into it. Although I did watch St. Anthony's regional championship a couple of times to try to make sure I would be able to speak intelligently on it, just because that was the real shocker. I mean, number one team in the state. You just sort of take it as a given that they're going to make it out of the regionals, and hats off to Arcola because and I'll freely admit that I had basically penciled St. Anthony into the sectionals. I had overlooked Arcola, and I was wrong to do that because they are a very solid team, and they played really well against St. Anthony. We'll get to that though. But as we mentioned, Altamont's girls are a game away from the state tournament. They won the Central A&M sectional. Uh, they defeated Salt Fork 39 to 29 in the championship game of that sectional. Now, I was the way it worked. We broadcast both St. Anthony and Altamont's semifinal games from that sectional earlier in the week, but then St. Anthony was defeated by Salt Fork, uh, and Totopolis's girls won their sectional semifinal. And so we were left with Effingham also having won a sectional semifinal. So then on Thursday night, we decided that we would go with Effingham and we'd go with T-Town. And Altamont has another station that covers all of its games. And we figured, well, that's the most people. It's going to get everybody on the radio. So I wasn't actually there for that Altamont sectional championship. But I turned on the video. We were getting settled in Newton for the T-Town girls sectional championship against Robinson, and turned on the NFHS feed, and I see the score is 4-4, and I was like, "Now I thought this game started at 6 o'clock. Maybe I was wrong." And then I look, there's 6 minutes left in the second quarter.
Yeah.
It was
You sent me that text and I showed Sap and I go, wow.
Yeah, it stayed low scoring all throughout the first half, and I watched, and it wasn't. You asked me in that text, like,
Yeah, they were holding the ball.
yeah, nobody was holding the ball. Just I don't know. Just I mean, we Matt and I walked away from the Salt Fork win over St. Anthony earlier in the week saying that's a team that plays really good defense. They didn't. They just played good physical man defense. They worked around screens up top very well. That was the thing that caused St. Anthony a lot of issues. Was that they'd set screens out top, and then the Salt Fork girls would communicate well. Sometimes they'd switch, sometimes they'd just fight through it or go around it, and they would recover. And you couldn't get anything out of it. Now, obviously, I'm broadcasting the game, so I can't sit and intently watch what Salt Fork and Altamont are doing. But I mean, that game remained close until the fourth quarter when Altamont pulled away a little bit, and really winning by 10 when the score is 39-29. I mean, it
Yeah,
got a little, I guess, lopsided at the end.
that's about a 15-point win.
So Altamont's girls are um, they're a win away from Bloomington, which would be kind of poetic when you think about it, because Grace Nelson is obviously going to be playing hopefully a lot more games at Redbird Arena over
Right.
the next 4 years. And that's where the state tournament is for girls, and so she might get a little early audition on the home floor, but they'll have to deal with the Cissna Park team first at the Super Sectional at Farmer City tomorrow night. And that one we will, since there's nobody left in the area, there's no conflicts anymore. We will definitely, Matt and I will definitely be making that trip. It's uh it's exciting for them. They have they've made it to the super sectional level one other time in school history, and that was I think 44. I think they were saying since
80,
1980.
80 or
So
81.
yeah, so it's been a minute, and of course 44 years ago in high school girls basketball is basically like the beginning of time, okay? Because they're they're really, you think about it, I mean, how much organized high school girls basketball was there in 1980? I mean, not every school had it,
Right.
really it's something that didn't catch on until about then statewide. So uh, that's exciting for them. It really is. We've had Craig Carr on. We like Craig. He's done a fantastic job with that program, taking it over this year, and 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 I just think that the community is really behind them. The one thing I will say is in covering their semifinal win over Tuscola, which they won by 15 in a game that was closer than that most of the way. Um, in fact, Tus- Tuscola might have been up one at halftime in that one, as I
I think
recall.
they were.
Um, the atmosphere in the gym was fantastic. Altamont's fans really did a nice job. I know their student section has been behind them. They've had a lot of kids coming to the games, and that matters. It really does. I'm pretty, I'm obviously pretty I have a good dialogue with the Neoga coaches because I know them so well, and they'll talk about how nice it is to have that fan support, that community support, and the girls feel it and respond to it, and and so it's you might think that it's not that big a deal and that the game's going on and it just kind of goes into the background, but I'm not. I don't think that's completely true. It helps to have and Tuscola's fans were really into it as well, particularly one of them who decided to sit right next to me at that game in the bleachers. That was that's a story for maybe when we're not recording, Mike. But we had an interesting character there. I'll just put it that way. But yeah, St. Anthony's girls. Uh, I don't think there's any shame in losing the Salt Fork. There's no shame in losing to anybody at the sectional level. But I know that they had hopes for, a little different outcome. It was their third straight trip to the sectionals. And each time it has come to it's they haven't been able to get out of it with some really quality teams. They've had some really solid teams, and
Right.
but that's the thing. It has to work out right. The matchup has to be right sometimes. Sometimes a break has to go your way in a tight ball game. And that's the thing about winning in the postseason, especially once you get down the road a little bit, is that sometimes it just isn't your night. And I think that as much as anything, in addition to the defense that Salt Fork was playing, I just I don't know. It just didn't feel like it was St. Anthony's night that night.
Well, and Kenny Crawford always told me to make a deeper end, you also have to be lucky
Mm-hmm.
and you have to get breaks. Um, so yeah, and it was one of those things. It sounded like defensively they gave St. Anthony just all kinds of problems. I was listening to you guys on the radio, and it was
Mm-hmm.
just St. Anthony had a lot of turnovers to start the game too.
They did. Both teams had a lot of turnovers to start the game, though, as I
Right.
recall. The one thing that stood out to me about the Salt Fork team was that they were hitting knocking down some jumpers, able to able to hit a few jumpers here and there, and they had a lot of kids who could do it. I mean, they had a
Right,
couple of players that were clearly their standouts, but they had either a freshman or sophomore, their tallest player in the starting lineup. She was able to hit some of that mid-range stuff, which that's hard to defend, length on a jump
mm,
shot. And then they brought in a freshman off the bench who hit three or four, I mean, important shots for them, and did not hesitate. Uh,
right.
she was probably the one that we walked away from the game as impressed as anybody with. But then Altamont turned around and held that team to 29 points all night long. I mean, maybe it's just a bad shooting night. Maybe the defense really was that good. But the bottom line is Greg and the girls are still playing, and they play Cissna Park. And the thing about that Cissna Park team is that that's a team that played Salt Fork this year, and Salt Fork beat them a couple of times. So if you want to
So
play
you're
that game,
telling me there's a chance.
yeah, I think there's a really good chance. They're 27-7. Don't get me wrong. They're they're they've had a lot of success this year. But yeah, they played. I'm looking it up right now,
Who
and they
all of their losses to, Whitey?
well now wait a minute. They played Salt Fork on December 27th and lost by a point, and then they lost to Salt Fork by 3 points. So they didn't beat. Yeah, they lost to Salt Fork twice. Okay, that's what I
Okay,
said, but by a total of 4 points. So
okay,
that's two of their losses. They lost to Oakville in overtime, which Oakville is a very good girls team right now.
right.
They lost to Central Southeastern, which I don't even know.
That's too many
Somebody,
directions.
yeah, I really don't know where that is. Um, Looking at this, they lost to Watsika, they lost to Bishop Mack. Um, They haven't lost in a while though. The last loss they had was to Salt Fork, and that was on January 8th. Although as I say that, I realize now that actually that Central Southeastern game was about a week and a half later. So, but still they've won uh 8, 9, 10 in a row. So
Okay.
uh they're I'm sure they're going to be good, right? Like there's no bad
Oh,
teams in sectional
to be at a
final,
super sectional,
super sectionals. That's right. Yeah.
you got to be pretty good.
Yeah, we'll see. As I recall, the Cissna Park had a presence at the state volleyball tournament too. So
Yeah, you said that so they've got some athletes.
yeah, and it's a high school with an enrollment of less than 100. So it's not a big place. But yeah, Cissna Park ended up losing to St. Anthony in the third place game.
Yep.
That's why it rung a bell to me. So
A lot of the same kids.
I'm gonna guess I'm gonna see some kids for the second time this year in that game.
Yep.
Gosh, with 95s, 96
You're
kids.
like a you're like a stalker.
Yeah, yeah, they'll be.
I've been in Cissna Park. They may be having an eye out for you, Whitey.
Yeah, I mean, the game is in Farmer City. Never, to my recollection, ever stopped in Farmer City. Um, but yeah,
Where I told you that's where Larry Wilson spent his honeymoon. He got lost on the way to Wisconsin Dells.
that's funny. So we'll see how that turns out. Best of luck to them. If they win, they'll go to state. They'll play a semifinal on Thursday. Um, Now, they're doing it the same way as they did last year, which is that you if you win Thursday, then you're off until Saturday, and you play in a championship game. If you lose Thursday,
Or Friday.
then you have to turn around and play the third place game later on that day.
Oh, you played again on Thursday. I thought you played Friday. Okay.
Nope, nope. You play the same day. You got to stick around. Neoga had to do that when they made it a couple of years ago.
That's right. They come back and had a good third place game. So
So
okay.
you end up having a nice long lunch and then sitting in the stands at Redbird Arena watching the other games while maybe your broadcast partner gets a quick nap in, not naming any names,
Understand?
well, it's a long day, so we'll see how it turns out for Altamont, but you look at who all is still out there. The winner of this Farmer City Blue Ridge sectional would play the winner super sectional would play the winner of the Brimfield super sectional, and that's between Galena and Glassford Illini Bluffs. Now Galena they've been good for a while because Galena was at the state tournament a couple years ago when Neoga was.
Right, right.
And then the other state semifinal would be the winner of the Oakville Super Sectional and the winner of the Harvest Christian Academy Elgin Super Sectional. And looking at Elgin, that would be Skokie and Peru St. Bede. Uh, Ida Crown is the school out of Skokie. That's up north. No idea. No idea
Right.
about that. Oakville and Goreville are playing
Okay.
in Oakville Super Sectional. So those are obviously both programs that have had, good runs as of late too. You'll remember
Yep.
Goreville was in a super
That's who
sectional,
Neoga played, wasn't
yeah,
it?
a couple of years ago, and really, you talk about Ken Crawford saying you need to get lucky sometimes. I mean, Yoga got a few breaks in that game. Goreville made some mistakes late and blew a pretty big lead, and then of
Yep.
course Oakville was at state last year,
Yep.
and they're a game away from going back. So there you go. T-Town girls lost in their sectional final to Robinson. Um, I was there for that,
I
and
saw some video of that. Robinson girls, what video I was seeing was highlights from Robinson, but they appeared to shoot it pretty well at times.
yeah, T-Town lost that game by 4 points, but it was obviously anybody's game. Yeah, Robinson's got an all senior starting lineup. Okay. Um, they've got twin girls by the name of Alexa Zane and Marissa Zane. Now Marissa's the one that you saw shooting. Okay.
Hmm.
She's probably a better pure player than her sister is. They both start, but Marissa scored 20 points or so. And there was one play in particular where she just jab stepped and then stepped back and hit a fadeaway 18 footer and drilled it, and that's just you just
Oh,
don't run across too many kids. And I'm not even gonna qualify this by saying you don't see too many girls. You don't see too many high school kids who can make that shot.
all right.
And and she did. And they had some size in their starting lineup. They brought a junior off the bench named Addie Odell, who actually I didn't realize this at the time, but it should have rung a bell to me. She actually played her first couple of years at Newton, and then her family. Well, she ended up having to move to Robinson because of some, family issues. I don't know the exact story there, but she was a really good one off the bench. She might have ended up being their second leading scorer. Uh, real spark plug. Made a huge play where she saved a ball inbounds under the T-Town basket, but she saved it to a T-Town girl. T-Town girl tried to shoot a three, but she got her balance back and blocked the shot
Wow.
right there in the corner. Anyway, Robinson's really good. They were a number one seed. No shame in losing to them. If you're T-Town, it was a fine year for them. They finish up at 21 and 12. By the way, St. Anthony's girls finished up at 26 and 6. Forgot to mention that. Altamont's currently 26. St. Anthony 24 and 9. I'm sorry. Altamont is 26 and 6 currently,
Okay.
and still playing. But the thing that we have talked about with T-Town's girls is that they're not like this is kind of probably just the beginning for this group of girls. Now there's always going to be some seniors who graduate, and Summer Wall is going to be difficult to replace.
All right.
I've talked a lot about how much I like about what she does. By the way, she started that game off with a step back 3-pointer, and I was like, "What is this?" She made the first bucket of the game. I was like, "I'm not used to seeing her doing that," but it's a smart thing, really, if you make it, especially because it just then it makes the other team, think of.
Yeah.
She unfortunately got in a little bit of foul trouble in that game and could not couldn't stay on the floor as much as they needed her to. And when you've got a point guard like that, it makes a difference if she's not out
Sure, it
there.
does. And I know Isabel Zers was the other senior, and she played well late in the year.
Mhm.
Um, her brother, who sometimes pesters me through text, was telling me she was really playing well down the stretch. So, and I'd see her in the box score, so it was good. That's two seniors they got to replace, but they do have some young kids who can play.
Yeah, I mean, the fact of the matter is that as far as people who put the ball in the basket, the most this year, well, they're all going to be back. You're going to have your top five scorers all back next year. Chloe Prupst, Anna Prupst, Molly Ruhal, Kelsey Niemerg. Now I didn't ask about Malia Helming. She didn't play at all in that game, which seemed a little odd to me. I don't know if there's if it was just a matchup thing or if she wasn't. I apologize that I don't know that off the top of my head, but those are your top five scorers for this team, and they all return. Probst and Ruhal are. Chloe Probst and Molly Ruhal are juniors. The other three that I just mentioned are sophomores. So
Yep.
there's and Anna Prupp's the second leading scorer there. She comes off the bench, or she came off the bench for them in that game, and I think has for most of the year,
The
and
year.
done a nice job. So there's plenty of reason for T-Town girls basketball fans to be excited. And there's another case of in that game, um, both Robinson and T-Town. Uh, they're and I've seen Robinson enough, to know that some of the guys from their boys team, and of course I'm obviously familiar with the T-Town boys. You get the boys from the boys basketball team showing up to support the girls, and coming on the road because that game's in Newton, so they both had to travel a little bit
Yep.
for it.
Yep.
They came out, I mean, it's nice to see. It's nice to see that investment because you always see the girls from the girls team at the boys games wherever you are, I feel like, but you don't always see the boys come over and watch their girls team and support them. And it I wish it happened everywhere. We'll just put it that
Yep.
way. So um T-Town, though, they still got up over 20 wins. They played the schedule they do. We've talked ad nauseum about how much they challenge themselves, and they're gonna be good for the foreseeable future. They've always been good.
Yep.
so
Yep.
so
Um,
yeah. Um,
Effingham girls, Greg and I did both of those games.
yes.
Played Mount Vernon in the semis. Um, Mount Vernon had two girls, Pollard and Johnson, like to penetrate. Effingham struggled with them at times, but Mount Vernon played a lot of zone. Effingham just shot the ball extremely well.
Yeah, how many three
It,
pointers did they make in that game?
a lot. That's my scientific term. Um, Bria Beals, because she comes off the bench, and she had I think 20, and I'm guessing she had at least five threes.
Yeah, she definitely had
Um,
20 points. They had four double figure scores in that
yeah,
game.
and but they did. They shot it well. Bella Austin, they started out hitting some threes. Beals hit some threes. Wolf hits. They were equal opportunity 3-point shooting team. Um, got a nice lead, and then Mount Vernon just kept dribble drive, getting to the hole. Effingham wasn't getting them. The Pollard girl or the Johnson girl really stopped, you know, mid lane and gave them fits. And they whittled that lead down, got it down to 9 fourth quarter. And Beals took a three from the corner, hit the rim, went straight up in the air, higher than the backboard, and came straight down through the basket. And that just kind of everyone exhaled. Um, Hearts took another three a little later. That was probably one. I talked to Jeff on the post game show while he was putting on his headphones. I said, "Was that one of those? Oh my! How are you not going to make that shot?" Trust me, been there as a coach. It's one you really didn't want to see taken, and then they buried it. And this is, 2 minutes ago, probably still a 9-point game. Um, but it went from, that could let Mount Vernon back in the game with a possession to in the end. Second game, the finals, they played, hang on here, Highland, played Highland. Um, Different type of team. Highland came out and guarded the heck out of the Hearts.
Hey, before you get into that, though, I just wanted to make sure 14 3-pointers they hit
Okay.
against. And Beals had 6 of them. Austin made 4.
Okay. She
Wolf
had
had
six.
3. And
Yep.
Dodds made 1.
So now they're playing Highland and different game. Highland wasn't going to play zone. Highland came out and played man, got after it, kind of punched the Hearts in the mouth. The Hearts struggled early, had some turnovers. I mean, and Highland was clearly outplaying them, but they weren't building a big lead. Highland had a Taylor girl. She's about 6 foot 6'1". She was a problem all over the floor. Blocked a lot of shots, could score, hit a three. Had about 2 or 3 other girls who could really shoot it. And at one point, the Hearts were down, I think it was 11 at the half, 22-11, and Sydney Donaldson hit a three at the buzzer to send it to 22-11. They were struggling, and they
Yeah.
go to the locker room with a little momentum. And I told Greg, we come out second half, Highland has the ball. I said, they got to go stop, score, bang, that gets you to 7. Now you're back in a ball game. And I'll be dang if they didn't get a stop and a score immediately. And the Hearts were a different team. Defensively, they were now the aggressor. And they got after it. And Highland felt uncomfortable at times. And then the Hearts got another stop, couldn't score. Another stop, went down and scored. And all of a sudden, it was a 7-point game. And from that start on, we had a heck of a ball game. And the crowd, Whitey, a
Yeah.
lot of people there, big student section. Hearts crowd was very noisy, and it was fun. And I think they got it to 1 in the third, maybe still in the third quarter. I think it was 26-25. They had it to 1 in the ball.
It definitely got to a point. Yes, it did.
And they just couldn't. Something happened every chance they had. I know they ran a play one time. They ran a set for Bria Beals. She came up off a double screen, was wide open. Bad pass. So she had to gather the pass in, not catch and shoot. Had another time, they had a little dribble penetration from the wing. Taylor girl came over to help. Little touch pass to Martin on the block for an easy layup. Threw it over her head out of bounds. They just kept having, every time they get there in the big moment, something happened, and it kept doing that. And then and then it looked like Highland was going to kind of finish them off. Highland was up probably 3 or 4 late. And all of a sudden, this girl from Highland fires up a three who hadn't even scored in the game. I thought her coach was going to come unglued. Um, and the Hearts cut it to 2 and then foul this same girl. I'm thinking that's a pretty good person to foul.
Mm-hmm.
Well, she hit 1. So the Hearts had the ball, let's say 9 seconds down 3. And they had Wolf penetrate. And then, she was going to get dribble drive, draw a crowd and kick back. And she did. She drew a crowd. Probably got a dribble too deep because she was in the land of giants then. Because Highland was bigger than the Hearts in every
Yeah.
position.
Yeah.
And
Which that's been.
Highland got the steal, went down, maybe missed the free throws at that point. I forget. But the Hearts still had the ball with a chance to tie down three and ran something, or actually Martin penetrated hard, then turned and kicked. Donaldson got it. Did a good job. Step back three, got it off, and kind of the back of the rim. I mean, it's one of those, if it travels another 6, 8 inches, it's a bank shot and tied and go to overtime. And if it's another 4 inches shorter, she swishes it. But it was just, just kind of that in between. Um, tough loss for the Hearts.
34-31, the final
Yeah,
there.
34-31. But I'll tell you what, um, you had the Moser girl and the Hodge girl, and she was hurt. She had that, I think,
Yeah,
concussion protocol was where she was.
wasn't available the
She was
last 2 games.
there. She was at the game.
Well,
She
that's
was on the
good
bench. She was in street clothes, I'm pretty sure.
because she hadn't been able
Um,
to even come to the games for a little while.
right. But I'll tell you what, there is a bright future for this group. The Martin girl, and I think Jeff mentioned it on the post game show. She told him she will be able to shoot the perimeter shot next year. Highland didn't guard her when she was, from 15 feet. They didn't guard her, and in the first half, when the Hearts were having trouble scoring, Hearts fans were getting restless because you could hear that murmur of shoot.
Mm-hmm.
Alyssa didn't take one and hit it. But in essence, it's just a free throw distance where they were leaving her alone. She could shoot free throws. So, but that just kind of got them out of kilter. They didn't get the open three looks, 3-point looks like they did the first night because
Yeah.
of different defense.
Yeah. Well,
But they could have easily been down 11 and really were, based on what you were watching, they were lucky to be within 11. Okay. And then they turned it around and became the aggressor and did a great job in that third quarter. They just flat got after Highland.
well, let me tell you, it's the inverse. The scores were the same because they played Highland at home in a regular season game back in right before Christmas and lost 38-34. But Effingham led that one 26-20 at halftime and then scored 1 point in the third quarter. Um, Scored 8 points the entire second half. And
But really, the second half of that game and the first half of this one
right.
burned the tape.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. And the one thing that is consistent was that Taylor girl got 20 points. Got 20 points for Highland in the first meeting and was a force the second time around as
Yeah,
well.
and Highland's a good ball club.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jeff's group's got nothing to hang their head about. I mean,
29 wins.
they put forth Whitey. I mean, they got after it in that second half, and it was a good ball game.
And
Good
Alyssa,
ball game, and it was great to hear a crowd at FEM be loud again.
yep. Alyssa Martin, by the way, she scored 400 points this year. She's only a sophomore.
Oh, that's good.
Um, she, if you'll remember last year, she just sort of, I can't remember
Came on
exactly.
late. She was a player who started. Jeff
Mhm.
started using more and more and started scoring. How many she gives a freshman?
131, but that's
Oh, so she's over
basically,
5 in 2 years. I mean, and it's different because this is a group with a lot of kids who can score. So it's not like you're the
yeah,
kid who's going to get, Grace Nelson gets a lot of points.
yeah. I will say that she's your more consistent. I mean, you look for people who have gotten like 20 in a game this year. Like she's done it a couple 3 times. It looks like, I mean, she's been your more consistent double figure scorer. She what she has is a knack for getting to the rim, despite the fact that
Right.
she's undersized to play in the paint. But
Was she five
that's
seven? I think.
yeah, but they just kind of they have to use her that way because they
Right.
don't
And
have
she
any
does. She
big.
doesn't. And the other thing is, she doesn't take a lot of shots. She gets 15 points on. A lot of people, get 15, 20 points. They take a lot of shots. She doesn't. She's
She'll
very
also
efficient.
She's pretty adept at putting on a spin move at the high block and getting to the rim,
Yeah.
staying under control. So that's I mean, she had a good year. They had her and Sydney Donaldson and Avery Wolf all scored more than 8.5 points a game this year, and with Beals and Bella Austin, right in the neighborhood too, right? That's the thing is that they've got 5 kids who can go off any given day, and that's difficult for another team to deal with. So.
Yeah.
They ended up 29-5. Jeff's a couple shy of 500. It won't take long for him to hit that next year. And there's no reason to believe they'll be anything but extremely solid next year and the year after.
That's true.
So there's the girls. That's the girls stuff. You know, Congratulations to all those teams we just talked about. St. Anthony, T-Town, Effingham. They all had fantastic years.
Yep.
It's just somebody has to win.
At
Somebody
some
has.
point, it's going to end
Yep. And
unless you win the ship.
for Altamont, they're the ones that are still playing, and we wish them the best. And we'll have Altamont talk for you next week. Hopefully, 3 games to talk about with Altamont by the time it's all said and done, but at least one. So that shifts us over to boys, and here's what I think we're gonna do. You and I were at T Town for the top or at Newton for the Totopolis Newton
Do
boys
that one last.
regional championship game. We'll do that last. Now, probably probably the biggest surprise to me, Dieterich was the number 1 seed down at that Edwards County regional. And I will say they had to play the home team there. And even though Edwards County was a
Yeah,
9th seed, it's on their floor. And I know you took a look at you
yeah.
watched.
Again. I wanted to. I was surprised. So some nice person named Dustin White sent me a link, and I was able to watch the game. We were kind of slow at work, and I watched it. I wasn't watching it real close in the first quarter. Edwards County had a kid hit 5 threes. Dietrich was came out kind of in his looked like it was his own. Um, it just didn't seem like there was a lot of urgency to get a hand in this kid's face. Um, because he just kept making, and he hit 5 threes in that first quarter. They eventually go to man. Um, Another kid hits 4 threes, I think, in the second half. And again, I mean, they were guarding him, but he was getting off shots. And probably the biggest thing I saw, which surprised me a little bit because I'd seen Dietrich play at the NTC. Um, Defensively, sometimes they kind of, I don't want to say they lose their man, but
A little bit, perhaps.
well, they just kind of go by difference. I'm going to go trap here. I mean, there was a time one time there was a trap, and then all of a sudden a third kid showed up,
Hmm.
and you had 3 kids trapping.
Being
They
aggressive,
were,
being aggressive is good, but
but the
being
biggest thing
aggressive
about
just for
being
the sake of
aggressive
being aggressive is not
but you
necessary.
gotta be disciplined. I used to stress with my kids at St. Anthony, I don't want to see false hustle. And I mean going through a passing lane on a pass you can't get, flying through and sliding out of bounds. Everybody's like, ooh. And then you get beat on the other end because now you're shorthanded.
That's
Um,
Derek Jeter diving after a ball he was never going to field in the first place.
right. Or the breakaway layup and your 2 kids go sailing out of bounds. Oh, they're going to block it. And then the guy misses it. And then the little 5'8" guard grabs the rebound because your 2 kids are laying against the stage. Just false hustle.
Right, right.
Um,
I see what you're
but
saying.
I don't know if it was that as much as, they were, had a kid, a possession they were pressing, and a kid kind of ran through a passing lane. And then one of the back kids kind of just came up halfway, like he couldn't get there to trap, too far to run, but he comes up about halfway and kind of, I'll slow him down. Well, there's nobody behind you but the kid from Edwards County. They threw to it. He got a layup. But it was just cases sometimes where you'd see kids leave a man or go trap or be watching the ball and not know where their man went. It was just surprising because I thought against St. Anthony they played pretty good defense tonight. I saw them in the NPC. So this one, it kind of surprised me. I don't know if they were caught in the moment and panicked, and their kids were panicking, trying to get it like a 6 point steal. But
Mm-hmm.
there was just times where they just kind of, and that's the thing in defense, especially if you're going to trap, man. Everybody's got to be on the same page because I used to love running the scramble, which is trap, 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 trap. But everybody's got a role to
The
play.
help has to understand where they have to be.
You got to help the helper. When you come to help, then somebody's got to help the helper. It's the rotation, but it wasn't as much the rotation, I think, as just sometimes going to trap or going to guard somebody who really wasn't your man. And then Edwards County seemed to take advantage of that. But there was some, you know, they led a lot of the second half. It was back and forth game, and they had chances, had some shots, had some looks, had some free throws. Um, it was just, you say, oh, it wasn't their night, and that was the case. It just it just looked like it wasn't their night. They just, I've seen those kids, like I said, when I've seen those kids, they got some kids that can play.
Yeah.
The Gephardt kid, Weston, they both could score. And the kid I know that came from Sisney, and it's just,
Yeah. Landon Keck.
yeah. And it was just, but it was at times where they just kind of got out of kilter. I don't want to say they just kind of were playing to their own beat sometimes.
And that Edwards County team, which they end up beating Dieterich by 5, 67-62. I mean, they turn around and gave Crystal Rock a good run in the championship too.
Yep.
Lost Crystal Rock won that one by 4. So that's kind of interesting to me. Crystal Rock is a regional champion this year. Remember last year they played St. Anthony in a regional championship, and people all across the state, yeah, well, Crystal Rock's heavy favorite in this one, and they've got this
Not the
record,
guys who did the game on the radio didn't see it that way.
and St. Anthony beat them. But then, then this year, real smart guys like me, thought, well, St. Anthony was kind of in that same boat that people thought Crystal Rock was in last year, and yeah, St. Anthony didn't come out of its regional because you still have to play the games. I mean, that's
And that's the thing. And I haven't seen it. You've seen it.
twice
Um,
actually.
yeah, you've watched it twice. You sent me the link. I just haven't had a chance to watch it.
Well, my son had
And
2 hours of baseball practice today. I had to.
well, and we'll switch to that game. And it sounded like Arcola kind of junked it up a little bit defensively. Um,
I mean,
Mage, they took away dribble penetration from the Bulldogs, which you've got 3 kids who can do that.
yeah,
And
I will
they
say,
said, we're going to make the other kids beat us.
yeah. I mean, I want to clarify. As far as I could tell, and I kind of checked with Matt because he and Greg were the ones doing that game. I think, I think, especially throughout the first half, Arcola was playing man, but tighter on some than others. They were
Sure.
sagging off to the point of basically sometimes having a guy just sort of camped in the lane. And if certain guys on St. Anthony wanted to take a shot from 18 feet out, God bless, have fun, good luck to
Yep.
you.
Been
But
there,
I'm
done,
gonna
been
make
there, done that.
yep, and it worked. I mean it. St. Anthony in the first half of that game didn't score but 2 or 3 buckets by my count and by my recollection that weren't putbacks. Okay. It was mostly stickbacks. Schmidt had a couple, Hatton had a couple. I think Westendorf got in there and did that. But as far as just hitting an open shot out of the offense, Nick Ruhal hit a corner 3, maybe, yeah, early in the second quarter. Uh, and really, there wasn't much more than that. They I wouldn't say St. Anthony had a ton of open shots that they missed, but they missed a few, you know. And on the other side, and so Arcola's up 13-8 after quarter, 29-20 at halftime. A couple of things, a couple of things to point out. Ryan Schmidt picked up his second foul late in that first quarter, and um, he wasn't back really. He wasn't back in the game until the third quarter. If I'm wrong about that, he didn't. If he saw the floor in the second quarter, it was not for very long. But I am fairly certain he didn't play again until after halftime.
And
And
that's a
then
pretty well a standard thing coaches will do.
and Max Koenig picked up a second foul early in the second quarter, and then he was not he didn't see action again until the beginning of the second half. So
Well, and you say, well, I've heard people say, oh, you got to trust the kid not to foul. I do trust the kid not to foul. I don't trust him to not get caught somewhere where he gets a kid's driving to the lane and
yeah,
he's just standing there and
he's
gets
not
his
out there
best
by himself.
right.
Yeah,
Gets that block, or he's running down the floor, and all of a sudden, little guard says, "Watch this," and stands there, and he gets ran over.
yeah.
I've seen those things
The,
happen, Whitey.
the
Hey,
only
this kid's not going to foul, and then some guy draws a charge just as he's jogging down the floor looking at somebody else.
the only way to ensure 100% that you don't get called is to basically be
Right,
useless on defense, and at that point, you might as well just get somebody else out there. And
exactly right.
I'm not even saying that that's necessarily why they were down 9 points at halftime. I thought Arcola was good. Okay. And here's my thing. I looked at Arcola. They'd only lost 5 games, I think, all year long. But I kind of looked at it, I mean, their conference hasn't necessarily been, they're in the Lincoln Prairie Conference. Yeah, it hasn't had its strongest year, I wouldn't say. Um, and I guess I don't know. I mean, I don't know that much about Arcola, and I know a lot about St. Anthony. I have a lot of respect for what they've done. And I just sort of felt like they'll do what they do. They'll press you, they'll extend the defense out beyond the perimeter, and they'll force you into mistakes. And Arcola had some turnovers in this game, but boy, they dealt with St. Anthony's press in the full court extremely well. Didn't really have a lot of trouble getting into their offense. And then another thing they did, first of all, they hit some open 3 pointers in the first half. And they were also able to take guys off the dribble and get to the rim and then finish. Like good, quick first steps. And then nobody was able to recover in time to prevent the layup. I mean, they had a lot of that too. So they were they were a solid team. They're not very deep, but but they just looked good. Like and like Matt put it, I traded text with Matt Robinson a little bit today about it. He said, you know, Arcola is a good team that wasn't scared to play St. Anthony, and they got in there and they took care of business. And
Yep.
they that's you know
And hey, St. Anthony had 3 point lead
they did.
inside a minute.
Yeah. Okay. So that's the thing. You go fast forward to the second half. Um, Arcola hits a 3 pointer early on in the third quarter to get back up by 12 points. Okay, they're up 32-20. And then St. Anthony outscores them 17-4 for the rest of that third quarter. Okay, has a 1 point lead going into
And
the
everyone's thinking, okay, we've
yeah.
righted the ship.
This is yeah, and including me because I think when Caleb gave us the third quarter score while we were
Right.
broadcasting T-Town game, I was like, okay, they figured it out. They're going to be fine.
Uh,
You know, I mean, I'll just kind of go down this. I just made some notes. Okay, so Brock Fearday, he drives in for a quick bucket to start that fourth quarter, gets St. Anthony up 3, but Arcola immediately answers same way, go into the rim and get us back to a 1 point game. A little bit later, Ryan Schmidt scores on the fast break, gets back up 3 points. All right, at at 6:12, Arcola drives in and makes a shot. There's a block charge call, but the officials are not sure. There's some confusion about who it's going to go against. And they end up calling it a charge. And St. Anthony gets the ball back with a 3 point lead, 6-12. Okay. And St. Anthony at this point, Arcola has switched to playing 2-3. Okay. They're playing a zone now. Definitely a zone. No question about it. I could see it's a zone. Pretty sure it's a 2-3, but definitely back in a zone. And St. Anthony kind of backs it off a little bit. All right. They back it off and they're just kind of throwing around up top, which Arcola, their top two guys in the zone, extend out a little bit and actually forced a turnover and drove down to the other end, got fouled on a shot, made both free throws, and got it back to 1 point. That's at 5:33. But then St. Anthony in the next possession goes right back to deliberate, very deliberate. From 5:33 until 3:45, they just pass it around, pass it around. That's when Brock Fearday finally drives in, takes a little, I don't know, maybe a 12-footer, uh, misses that one off the right glass. Arcola rebounds, but has an empty trip. So that gets us to 3:20. Arcola goes to man at this point. They switch back to man, but St. Anthony's still patient. They get fouled once. Arcola calls the timeout. There's another foul. St. Anthony calls the timeout. But all that goes over the course of the next 2 minutes and 7 seconds. So all the way down to 103, Colin Westendorf misses a little runner in the paint. And it's still 41-40 St. Anthony. That's at 103. So again, you've had what, two, three possessions from 5:33 to 103. Like the game has, completely, slowed down.
Right.
Arcola comes down, misses a quick three at 45 seconds. And that's at that point that they decide they got to foul. They foul Schmidt. He goes to the line, makes both free throws, makes it 43-40. But then Arcola immediately goes down, hits a three-pointer to tie it at 43. There's a timeout at 20 seconds. And then St. Anthony, after uh, about 10 seconds into its possession, calls a timeout at 9 seconds. Okay. So St. Anthony's got the ball. It's tied, 9 seconds to go. Um, Fearday misses a shot, tries to again from that same spot off the right glass, couldn't get it to go. Arcola thinks it has the rebound, but turns it over, trying to jet up the floor. St. Anthony gets a baseline inbound play with 1.9 seconds left in regulation, and they get it to Fearday, and he has an open 18-footer, but didn't come real close, and so you're playing overtime. Um, and from that point, listen, the final score ended up being 57-52 Arcola. So they outscored St. Anthony 14-9 in that final quarter. That's a lot of points
Yeah.
in that quarter. Uh, they had one kid, Arcola did make all six of the free throws he shot. He scored 8 points in overtime, I think it was. So, there's not as much to say about the overtime period as there is that fourth quarter. Now, I saw the usual uninformed opinion on Facebook talking, and this is an Arcola fan talking about, well, that's what St. Anthony gets. That's a cowardly move to try to take the air out of the ball there. Do you realize how much? Do you realize how ballsy it is to run a stall with a 1 point lead in a high school game? Like you can quibble with whether it was, you know, what the right move there is, but
Right.
like most coaches do not have the confidence in their kids to do anything like that.
Well, and you said they ran a little bit of time against the zone, and if they weren't shooting it well, and against that zone, and you're only going to get a three look, maybe not wide open, you know, you see kids take shots. Sometimes the coach doesn't. So it's just a matter of, hey, if we don't get what we want, let's not force the issue.
Yeah,
So I don't know. I mean, those things happen. You hate to see, you just hate to see St. Anthony get beat because, like any other area school, we're pulling for them.
right.
Um,
I mean, I had
so
I had thoughts not that long ago, that I'd be watching St. Anthony play at State. I really had a pretty strong belief that they had the team to do it. And but you know what? The shooting, in hindsight, the shooting hasn't been there for a while for St.
right,
Anthony. there's been
probably since the semifinals of the NTC. Ryan Schmidt shot it great in the finals, but really since then, now they played Ramsey in the
yeah,
semis, and Ramsey obviously stood in the zone and they hit what 21 threes.
scored
But
100 points against Ramsey, but
yeah,
that's nothing against Ramsey, but
right. But they were standing in the zone, my understanding, letting them get open looks.
mhm.
Um, and they kept making them. But yeah, you saw it. The Altamont game, they struggled at times shooting the ball. So it's just the wrong time of the year to have a
I mean,
little
there's
blase shooting.
semifinal against Nokomis in the
Oh yeah,
regional, and plus their game against Nokomis in the NTC-CIC shootout. They won both of those games. They won both of them in the 40s, I believe.
yeah,
They beat Nokomis 45-33 in the regional, and they beat Nokomis 43-30 when they played them 11 days prior. So really, you know, they since that the last four out of the last five games, just didn't put a ton of points on the board. I don't know. They just that happens. What can you say?
yeah. You hit that lull scoring. Kids lose a little confidence. Whatever it is going on, and it was horrific timing for that to happen because, like you, I felt like with those three who could score in Schmidt, Westendorf, and Faraday, they just were tough for any team to guard because
yeah,
there's three kids you got to guard without big really can't guard them because they're all perimeter. They can all dribble, drive, and they're strong kids who can score. And it just didn't happen. They weren't all
yeah,
sharp
and
at the season, so it's unfortunate. Um, I know those kids hurt, but
yeah.
those things happen, man.
Yep. But again, I thought Arcola dealt with Arcola dealt with St. Anthony's defense very well. And I have always kind of felt like that was, I mean, St. Anthony, even on nights when they didn't shoot so well, they had that athleticism and that length to cause a lot of problems defensively. And I didn't feel like Arcola struggled with it as a lot. I mean, they had
Huh?
turnovers here and there, but it wasn't a consistent issue. Now, St. Anthony didn't
Right,
turn it over very much at all in that game.
right,
Um, I'm sure Arcola turned it over at least twice as many times.
right.
But again, they dealt with the pressure very well. Not a lot of turnovers in the backcourt. They just I don't know. They were solid. And like again, reiterating, they were not afraid one bit. They
Nope.
were up to the task, and
Well, and the longer they hang around, the longer you let a team like that hang around when you're quote the favorite, the tougher it
yep.
gets.
And then Altamont, they had a regional championship against Woodlawn, lost that one 57 to 45, 57-45. Weber Township was the higher seeded team in that game.
Right.
Um, Altamont was without Cade Melville. He apparently went home sick from school that day. And so they didn't have him. They
Well,
didn't
there's three kids they were missing, right?
well, they um just two because the Caden Davis who missed he missed the St. Anthony game.
No, Davis played against St. Anthony. He shot the
Oh,
ball.
it was Eli Miller that missed St.
Yeah.
Anthony. Eli's back. In fact, he scored 20 points
Oh,
and
okay.
he scored 20 points against Weber. But uh Elam is obvious. Dylan Elam has, I mean, he wasn't ever going, like, he's been out for the season for a while
Right.
now. But that's two guys that probably would be starting for you,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know if it makes the difference in that game or not. I wasn't there, so it's hard for me to say. But Matt went and watched Weber play in their semifinal on Wednesday, and he said they were a pretty good team. They had a really good score. They had another so-so score, but they've won a lot of ball games this year.
Yeah.
And again, they were favored by the seedings in that one,
Right.
so you could have seen Altamont win it, but they did not, and so they're you know all of a sudden, St. Anthony's done 29-5. Altamont's done 21-9. Dieterich is done 24-7. And the St. Anthony sectional this week is going to have no.
Have seats available.
Yeah, there's it. It really would have. I mean, you could have seen that being pretty huge spectacle, and that's nothing against teams that are playing there. I mean, Tuscola did make it. They beat Casey in their regional championship, but it's you got Christ Rock in there. You got Arcola in there. You got I'm struggling to even remember what the who's the other team that made it. Oh, Weber Township.
Arcola.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Weber
Weber Township
Township,
Arcola.
Arcola. So it's going to be Arcola and Weber Township on Tuesday night. Then Christ Our Rock and Tuscola on Wednesday night.
You
Championship.
might get a cola war for the final.
You might. I mean, that's Tuscola's sectional to lose for sure now.
I would
Um,
say so.
but listen, a week
Don't
ago we
count
would have
out
said,
Weber, man. Don't
yeah,
count out Weber.
a week ago we would have said that it's probably St. Anthony's sectional to lose,
Right?
and we're wrong. So
Yep.
they'll play the games, and we'll see how it all turns out. T Town's the only boys team left alive, Mike,
Yep.
and
We did that game, and we knew it was going to be a good ball game,
yeah, they
and we were treated to a good ball game.
yeah, no, they went to Newton. They were the higher seed, but it was on Newton's home floor, and it's a 2 and a 3 seed, so not a lot to choose from there. And they had played each other pretty tight not so awful long ago, back on January 30th. Um, T Town won this game 50-48 on two Joey Nieberge free throws with 3.3 seconds left to break a tie. And and again, I said this when I was talking to Chet after the game, and I promise I'm not doing it to pick on the kid, but if you had told me that the season was going to come down to Joey Nieberge needing to hit a couple of free throws, it hasn't been that kind of year for him at the line.
Yeah, he struggled a little bit. I percentage wise, he's probably low to mid 60s,
Yeah,
low 60s, I would guess.
but he was 5 for 6 on Friday night, and he
Yep.
made both of those. He rattled them both home. Clutch is, I mean, it was huge. I mean, I don't know what
Well,
to
that
say.
Max Nieberg, he made the two before. Max
Zach,
had missed the three. He had a turnover, probably a little down on himself, came back in. And we said in the broadcast when it was a 1 point game, Newton's going to foul now. Newton got to where they could get to the bonus. I said, they're going to foul Max Nieberg. He
Zach,
hadn't been on the
Zach.
floor enough. Zach Nieberg.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, Zach. Zach Nieberg. Max was his brother who played. Zach
yeah,
Nieberg.
yeah,
And I saw Zach's mom and dad last night, and I said, "Man, he stepped to the line and buried him," and he did. Nothing but
yeah.
net, bang bang,
Yeah, he
and
drilled those with a
yeah,
timeout sandwiched around timeout
which
too.
made it a 3 point game. And the guys doing the game on the radio were so smart. They said, "Hey, all Newton's got to do is go to the hole quickly, get a bucket." And what do? Parker Wolf pulls up. Get There was an opening, but it wasn't a wide
Now,
open shot.
now to be fair, we just said they don't have to have a three. I don't think we didn't necessarily say,
Well, I've seen enough teams come down and get a bad three in that situation. Parker's wasn't a bad three.
hey,
And he buried it. Then it was tied, and you're like, then that was probably 14 seconds, 15, no more than that. And then T Town goes down, got his shot missed. Nieberg got the rebound, got fouled on trying to get the putback. He makes his. Newton inbounds the ball, and Joey just punches it out of bounds.
yeah, with three,
Probably could have caught it.
yeah,
Could have caught it. Just punched it out of bounds.
and that was a
So they
little bit
took
of
it from 3.3, and the crowd was booing, and because the clock still showed 3-3. Officials got together. They took it down to 3 even, which
mhm.
was pretty legitimate because really the clock didn't start until he punched it.
Yeah,
And then the clock was going to stop, and he punched it a step and a half from out of bounds
yeah. What are you supposed to
once
do?
it hit some T Town fans in the bleachers.
Yeah,
So that was pretty accurate. Pretty good job by the officials to take that time off.
mhm.
Newton ran a play. I knew by the way they lined up exactly what they were running. Didn't quite execute it the way it's because T-Town kind of took it away from them. And
Mm-hmm.
I think it's because of how they lined up with it a little bit. Um, got a heave from half court, and that was it. And
Yep.
an incredible game.
Yeah.
T-Town had built a 10-point lead in that third quarter, and you thought, okay. And I'll be darned, Newton didn't claw back in it. The first half, it was like kids home from college at Christmas. A lot of threes being shot, not a lot of threes being made both ways.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, so, but then things settled down that second half and turned into a heck of a ball game. Joey Nieberg hit a monster three in that
Yeah.
fourth quarter.
Yeah, he
Um,
did.
Derek Gaddis, who played his butt off,
Mm-hmm.
okay, was 3 of 7 from the line in the third quarter, which is very uncharacteristic for him. He's a good shooter. And it was just one of those games. It was a weird game. But you know what, Whitey? The best thing about the whole night,
Was that you said on the pregame show that the first team to 50 was going to win, and then T-Town won 50 to 48. So
what's that thumbs down thing I'm seeing on the screen, Whitey? What was that?
I don't know. I didn't do
Huh?
that.
Whitey, you've been waiting all day for that.
I honestly have no idea why that just showed up on the screen.
Uh-huh. Uh, and now, and
I really don't. I didn't do that.
good timing on your part. But it was a case where when we talked about that, and I've said it on here, you know, my biggest concern with T Town is being able to score enough points. Defensively, they've played well. Um, and it was just one of those. And in the first half, Chet ran a lot of flare cuts, a lot of pick or just flare cuts
That's
off
the
of
thing.
screen, and got a lot of the 3 pointers they were taking were open looks. They got a lot of open looks, and Newton did too.
Uh-huh.
And it was just nobody could make anything.
Yeah. Did you um did you realize now Parker Wolf scored 24 points in that game for
That's
Newton?
1,000th point in the game. I didn't know that.
Yeah, did they make a big deal about that? And I didn't
I never
really.
even heard it mentioned. Now I saw pictures of kids with signs. I didn't even notice the signs.
Yeah,
I was too busy trying to keep up with rebounds. Okay.
I felt bad about not saying anything on the air. Now Newton's got their own, they've got their station that covers all their games, and
Right.
I mean, listen, it's close
He
enough.
got it in the second half.
Yeah. I don't I don't know. It
And
completely
we
got
we
by me. So
talked to his dad when we were leaving.
yeah, he didn't say anything either, did he?
Uh-uh. No.
Um, that was a
I met
huge
his
one
dad.
he
That's the
hit.
first time I met his dad.
Um, T-Town had an 8-point lead in the second quarter. They had a possession where they could have stretched that to double digits. Instead, Newton come down and hit a three-pointer. I believe that's how that worked. And then again, T-Town got up by as many as 10 points in the third quarter, but Newton had another run in them. And
Newton
that's
had that 5 point possession. They hit the three, foul
Caden
called
Nichols.
after the shot,
Yeah.
and
Caden
then Nichols
Nichols.
got a bucket off of a ball screen. And you and I even talked about it on air. I didn't see it. I was watching the flight of the ball. Nichols took a three. I'm following that. Whistle after it goes in. Basket's good. Foul here after the shot. Ball out of bounds, Newton. They immediately scored. I think they took it from like 8-3 right there.
Now here's the thing. Caden Nichols scores 5 points on one trip down the floor. It's 5 of the 7 he scored that night.
Oh,
He averaged 17 points a game this season, 17.4. But Garrett Gaddis and it's easy to get hung up on 18 because Garrett Gaddis scored 18 points that night. And it's easy to get hung up on the scoring. It's the only thing that you can, if you look at a box score, it's the only thing you can know for sure, right?
right.
But Gaddis guarded Nichols in this game. He held Nichols to 4 points when they played earlier this
Yeah.
year. That
Well,
is enormous, obviously huge.
the thing about Gaddis is I enjoy watching him play. I was teasing when I see him. I tell him to shoot the ball because I thought he was a good shooter at times last year, and he was hesitant on shooting. Um, but he plays with a chip on his shoulder, and he guards the heck. I mean, he guards you. Most people, hey, you're leading scorer, especially on a team sometimes that has trouble scoring. You're gonna not tax that guy on the defensive end. He might guard you or I. No, 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 no. He's guarding their best player and guarding them well. So, heck of a ball game for him, both ends of the floor, defensive
Mhm.
end especially.
Um, the other thing, I mean, aside from Tyler Prummer scoring 9 points in that game, nobody scored more than three, but everybody who played got a bucket somewhere.
Yeah,
And listen, you won by 2 points. So
they
every
were
one of them was
important. A lot
huge.
of important ones.
Yeah.
My boy Austin Blummer hit a little jump hook.
Yeah. When he hit that little baby hook in the lane, I was excited for you because I know that that's what you like to see. That's what I
I
mean,
just don't think his size, strength, and length. It's just hard to stop him from getting that.
he saw extended minutes in that game. He saw extended minutes the first time these two teams play because he's probably a better physical matchup for Dylan Gear than Prummer. I mean, not taking anything away
Yeah.
from Prummer, but
Tyler was in foul trouble this game. He
well,
and
and
Joey both. He and Joey
he and
both were
Joey
in foul
Nieberge both were in foul trouble. Tyler ended up fouling out, and Joey ended up with four. Um, they had to be a little creative about using Joey down the stretch, and that's the thing. Things break a little differently, and he's not even in the game to make those.
well, yeah, yeah. And again, Chet likes to do that OD subbing, and he does it in the second quarter and again, I know, but
It's a lot to keep track of,
it
but
goes for
obviously
an
that's what your
offensive
assistants are
rebound,
for.
trips and falls into a kid getting a rebound, gets a foul. There's so many things that can go wrong.
Hmm.
But Chet's been very consistent with that the whole time he's been here.
Yeah. I mean, and that's why you have guys on your bench with you, by the way, because the coach can't keep track of all that little stuff, all those, somebody has somebody's got to be helping out with that stuff. And there are a lot of things to think about over the course of a game. And that's where having a staff you trust. And he mentioned his guys on the bench, when we interviewed him after the game, I mean, you have to you have to be able to trust that your assistants are saying the things to the kids that need to be said and noticing the things on the floor that need to be noticed and helping
Yep.
you make sure that the right kids are in the game at the right times.
Very, very, very important to be getting great input and to have a great relationship with your staff. Some coaches do, some don't. I mean, that's the way it is. Um, and it is. It's very important.
Um, you know, it's it's just such a hard job uh, being a varsity coach. I've never done it, but I have a great deal of respect for it. And I think just because, boy, you get it's easier than ever to second guess what coaches do. People have
Sure.
many outlets to do it where they can air their grievance for the masses to see, and they never have to be in the same zip code as the coach they're talking about while
Right.
they do it. And there's I've seen a lot of it this week.
Well, and that you're going to, it's the nature of the beast. I know when I coached, um, yeah, I know there were critics out there. They were lined up. I mean, there was a lot of uh, this or that, but God, anyway, I played we, those 3 years. We were in two sectional championships,
well, and
and of those 3 years, a team called the Topless went to state twice.
yeah.
So that kind of gives you, there was. I felt like, and I don't mean this as the old man saying how good, but the brand of basketball, especially those 3 years in this area, was a little overall at a higher level than it is now. And I don't mean that in a bad way towards these kids, but I'm just saying
Right.
I would go to a Christmas tournament. I was down there 3 years at Breeze, and I think of those 3 years, 7 times a team from that Christmas tournament was in the state tournament.
Yeah, it's
And that's Christmas, man.
but just overall in the broad scheme of things, now 10 years ago, 50 years ago, if you're not there in the locker room, in practice every day, understanding why decisions are made, why things are done, or what's going on over the course of the game. What kid is feeling this way, or
Yeah.
like if there's so many things you have to have a handle on, and the person in the bleachers doesn't know it.
Well, and it's matchups. There's so many times. A perfect example: Bria Beals gets 20 points in the semifinal game. Okay, for
Mhm.
Effingham.
Yeah,
Highland's not going to let her get open looks.
sure. They watch the game film.
She got a couple buckets going to the hole, doing some things, but she wasn't going to hit six threes. Now, some people, well, Jeff needs to get Beals in the game more.
Yeah,
Well,
how
no,
come Bills
score.
didn't
She's
shoot
not going to
more?
score because as soon as she came in the game, this girl from Highland, probably as quick or quicker and stronger, same size, just locked her down. Bria, wherever she went, this girl was there. So it's a matchup thing, and that's one of the things. There may be a night where a kid gets 25 minutes, and the next night he gets nine. Well, what's going on? Coach didn't know
There's
he's doing it. No,
there's probably a reason for it.
there is, and there's a lot of things that go into it. And coaches get way, way, way too much credit for wins, and way, 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 way too much credit for losses. It's the same way.
Hmm.
Um, yeah,
Yeah,
I've never met a coach who was like,
especially.
Thank God the season's over. No, they're getting torn up, man. I've been through a 1-22 season as a coach. It was terrible.
Well, and especially at the high school level, you can listen. These are children, and you can have the best game plan in the world, but they're not always going to go out there and execute it. And they may not even act like they know what the game plan was, and that's just the nature of high school sports, and you have to be prepared to deal
Oh
with it.
yeah,
This isn't college. This is not the pros. There are no sure things. This week should probably be a good reminder to all of us that there are not any sure things in high school sports, in any sports, but especially at this level. And just keep that in
yep,
mind.
yep. I know.
It's but I've seen more of it this week than I'm used to, and maybe it's just because it's been brought to my attention more than usual. But I don't know. Don't do it. Just
Yeah, it's
just
it is, and it's just like I
hope for
said.
a
It
better
was
result next year.
yeah. Um,
I got all conference teams for NTC that we need to mention too before we leave, just so.
okay, and then Effingham played it, and Effingham's lost to Charleston.
Yeah, Effingham lost to Charleston in its opener of the regional.
That
Uh,
was on.
would have been on Monday night.
Yeah, it would have been on Monday night.
Yeah, 64-34 was the final there. Um, and just in closing, with Effingham again, saw the Effingham team a lot this year, and they didn't win a lot. That's no secret at this point. But at no point did I ever go into one of those games saying, "Oh man, I got to do this again." It wasn't like that at all. Uh, they made it worth my while every time, and we really will hope that another a good season. A lot of experience will pay off for them in the future. It's these are tough years. How you respond to them is what ultimately, and whether that's who knows what that means for next year. I don't Will they turn it around and win 25 games? I mean, that's a pretty big ask. You just want to see improvement. uh, but good attitudes, keeping a good attitude, keeping a good approach to it, that's what you're looking for as much as anything. Learning the right lessons from all of it, because in life, there's winners and losers in life once you graduate from high school too, and you have to be able to respond appropriately to it there also. And so still lessons to be learned in a 3-win season as much as there are in a 25-win season.
Sure, sure.
Yeah, so they actually released these NTC all conference teams Saturday last week before we recorded. I didn't see it in time, but no surprises on the girls' side as far as the most valuable player. Grace Nelson was the MVP there. She was on the first team from Altamont, along with Stacy Vonderheit of St. Anthony, Lexi Seabaugh of Brownstown St. Elmo, Deanna Hazlett of Brownstown St. Elmo, who you're a big fan of for good reason. We'll be seeing a lot more of her the next 3 years, and that's a Brownstown team that's going to be look for them to make a real run toward the
They
top.
have an opportunity. The
Yeah,
opportunity is
Nancy Ruhal from St. Anthony and Macy Rodman from Cowden Herrick Beecher City. So easy, I think pretty good choices there all the way across. No, no question that those people belong. Second team, Miley Britton from Dieterich got on there. Maya Ballard from North Clay. Bryn Richards from Neoga. Ella Kinkler from Windsor Stew Straws. Tegan Webster from South Central. Haley Campbell from Neoga. And then your honorable mention, Peyton Osteen from Altamont. Ruby Stuckemeyer from CHBC. Estella Meinhardt from Dieterich. Allie Sampson from Neoga. Alexis Van Dyke from North Clay, Addie Rios from St. Anthony, and Sam Hayes from Windsor Stew Straws. So there you go. Tim Paisley is the Brownstown St. Elmo coach, and he is the coach of the year for the National Trail Conference this year. For the boys, your MVP is Ryan Schmidt. Um, I think that was probably, I have to imagine that was a close vote. I have to imagine
sure
that
was.
that there were probably some people who went another direction. I don't mean that in any way to
Well,
cast aspersions on Ryan. I just think
yeah.
there were some pretty good players in the conference and on his
Well, and
team.
again, this is voted on by the coaches.
Yeah, the coaches vote on this, by the way.
Yeah,
So if you got a problem with it, then and you if you've got a problem with it and you coach and you root for an NTC team, well, I mean, the coach of the team that you follow was part of that vote. So, what are you going to do? Those people see it more clearly than anybody. So you got to sort of let the experts have their voice heard there. But Ryan Schmidt did end up the MVP. Brock Fearday from St. Anthony was on the first team as well, and Caleb Gephardt from Dieterich. I think both of those guys. I'll bet there were some first place votes for both of them. Maybe
I'm sure there was.
I mean, uh, Caden Miller from Altamont got on there. Perfect choice there. I'm glad he got on there. Lucas Westendorf from Dieterich also in there, and Adam Atwood from St. Elmo Brownstown. Um, Fine choices all the way across. Second team, Colin Westendorf from St. Anthony, Landon Keck from Dieterich, Cody Zimdars from North Clay, who, if he can stay healthy, that's not going to be the last time we see him there. Clayton Wojcik from CHBC, Jackson Gurgle from Windsor Stew Straws, and Aiden McManaway from Altamont. And then your honorable mentions, Cade Schaub from St. Elmo Brownstown, Eli Miller from Altamont, Trey Sheehan from Neoga, Carter Walden from North Clay, and Max Magnus from South Central. And Cody Rinker got Coach of the Year. So there's your all conference teams for both the boys and girls for NTC. Congratulations to everybody. It's they were both fun conferences to follow. For the boys,
Sure.
postseason didn't go quite the way we had hoped it would, but it doesn't take away the fact that they gave us some really fun months of basketball to follow. And obviously, if you're watching this show regularly, you know how I feel about the NTC, especially on the girls' side. It's been such a fun conference the last 3 years. Lots of great players there, and I look for the NTC girls' conference to still be strong next year. There's going to be some shuffling around, I think, in the powers that be, but still a lot of good players left in there, a lot of good teams left in there. So there you have it. And I don't know, that's next week's we're not going to have near as many games to talk about, near as many teams to talk about. We're going to have, we hope that Altamont will play 3 games. We hope that the T-Town boys, will have a couple games to talk about, but they'll play Tolono Unity, which we didn't mention when we were breaking down their game, but they got a rematch with Tolono Unity, and that's going to be tough. But hey, playing in a sectional, baby, that's all you can ask for. 14 straight years T-Town's played in a sectional, and was it 20 of the last 23, I think now. So they're good times for them, and we hope that they both those teams. We've got lots of positive things to talk about, but we know that get this time of year and it can all end pretty quickly. So we'll see. Did I don't know, they played some baseball games finally. Some spring training baseball games starting to happen.
Cardinals are undefeated.
Yeah. Did you see? I saw a video of this. I didn't look at it closely, but they were playing I think it was the Marlins in a spring training game, and runner on second for the Marlins with two outs. And a St. Louis player hits a ground ball to third. Third baseman throws it to second base, and then they turn it and go to first to get the one out. I guess he forgot which base the guy was on, but
Confused. Well,
I guess
they could be working on drills in the summer. Who
that's why
knows?
you play spring games, right? Make sure everybody
Right.
remembers what the situations are. But it's good just to
Um, I do want to give a shout out.
yeah.
Effingham alum Carson Fairday
Oh yeah, I saw
set
that.
the Maryville record,
Uh-huh.
singles 41 points, I believe.
Yeah, yeah, I saw that. That's very cool. She was a fun player to watch in high school. I
Yep.
mean, there's been so many good ones come through Effingham, but she's certainly one of them, and that's good to see. Um, yeah, that's a fun one. I saw that Josh McDevitt threw a pretty good first outing for
Yeah. Gave, I think, a hit, a walk, and 3 strikeouts. I
yeah.
know Mason Robinson got injured, but he played today. He was in the starting lineup. So,
Is that right? Well, that's
yeah.
good. It was his non-throwing shoulder.
Well, unless the Kaskaskia coaching staff posted their own starting lineup on Twitter, which is very possible because their coach, friend of the show, Mitch Kester, it's very possible.
Yeah, I know that Mason, yeah, he Matt and I had a chance to talk quite a bit about it because we've been on the road a lot,
Yeah,
and Mason's he's hitting the ball, but not where they ain't every time so
right.
far.
Mhm.
That can be frustrating.
Part of
Baseball,
the game.
that kind of game sometimes, but glad to see that whatever happened there, hopefully, was not too big of a
Yeah,
deal.
no, I was kind of surprised when I saw it there. So hopefully it was. Yeah, we'll see.
Yep. Yeah, lots of local baseball and softball athletes getting, starting to get things underway. So,
Track kids are running in hallways. They'll be running outside tomorrow already.
yeah, I was gonna say the weather's looking pretty favorable for parts of this week anyway.
Yep.
It's it's been a weird winter, man. Like you'll
Till
have a little
February,
bit.
and it's going to be 70 degrees tomorrow, man.
Yeah, I know. My son, like I said, he had a baseball practice today. It was supposed to be hitting indoors, but it was so nice out. They ended up going out and playing catch in the parking lot and stuff, like why would you waste it? A nice day like this in
Oh
February.
yeah. All
But
right.
we've had about as many days like this in February as we've had like legitimately cold ones too. So
Yep.
it's just been an up and down year. All right. I think we're rambling at this point. Not much to talk
That's
about.
good.
Both of our respective college basketball teams had some rough ones to talk about this week against Penn State, as a matter of fact. Penn State really victimized the both of us this week.
Yeah.
Although
Hoosiers
the
victimized.
Illinois loss was worse because they should have had that game won. And then all of a sudden,
Hoosiers. We victimize ourselves.
yeah,
Our
yeah.
wounds are many times self-inflicted.
I just like to get you going on this a little bit.
I know it's
See
it's
that
tough. I'm just
sadness in
telling.
your eyes before we hang up for the night.
I'm going to be over there Saturday visiting my daughter. I don't even know if they play, and I don't care. Nope. We got her boyfriend Ben has his white coat ceremony for
Oh,
optometry school, and then her birthday is Monday. So we're gonna do the white coat thing with Ben, and then go out and eat dinner and spend the night and come home Sunday morning.
sounds like a plan.
That's a plan for now.
Hopefully I'll be in Bloomington Normal on Saturday.
Yeah.
That's the hope.
That'd be good. We'd be in two Bloomingtons. We'd have it covered.
That means that would mean that Altamont's playing for state championship that night. We'll keep our fingers crossed.
All
But
right.
until then, I think that's all I got. So
All
hey,
right.
if you're watching us and you haven't subscribed already on YouTube, make
Hey,
sure
we
you
got
do.
up to 180 subscribers, Whitey.
Yeah, I know we're just
The Aaron Britton push.
well. I'll tell you, just it steadily grows a little bit.
We wear people down. I
We
know.
keep at this for another decade or so, and we'll have a legitimate following.
We may earn $1 by 2028.
Yeah. Well, I enjoy it. I don't really care.
I
I
know.
know that there's a handful of people that look forward to it every week, and that's flattering enough. So,
Yes, it is.
so there you go. All right, Mike. Hey, we'll talk next week.
All right, see you, bud.
All right. See ya.